All right, welcome back to Beyond the Cinema. I'm Ethan, and I'm here with my very good friend Tyler. And yeah, I guess let's dive right in. This is going to be our longest episode yet.
Yeah, we're filming. This is like recording session 2. We recorded a review the other night, and now we're going at it for round 2. So it's gonna
So
look.
you'll notice us change clothes at random times.
It's gonna look a little funky. We're gonna go from the news, and then we're gonna change clothes and talk about scary stories to tell in the dark, and then we'll come back to talk about Dora.
And we'll be in our same clothes again. So you'll see 2 outfit changes.
Yeah.
Okay, so should I take us off for the news?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay, so back from the dead.
So I know we had a moment of silence for this last week,
but apparently Disney heard that and was like, guess what? We're back. And the New Mutants will be releasing April 3rd, 2020, so early 2020 release date.
Yeah.
All right.
So yeah, it had like a test screening for Disney executives. They watched it. They hated it, actually. They weren't impressed by what they saw. But apparently there was, I don't know if it's the money, that there's been so much money put into the thing, or if it's that they thought it had potential, but it's in reshoots right now, and it's getting an April 3rd release date. So
I literally heard this, and I did that video that's a meme right now of Tyler, the creator, where someone tells him something, and he's just like, okay. And that was pretty much me, like, all right, I guess it's happening.
So it's a thing now. I mean,
it's a thing.
I mean, with how much work they're putting into it, this thing better be fantastic.
Yeah, it better be the best movie I've ever laid eyes on. It's been put off for like 2 years and 5 reshoots now.
Yeah,
so
seriously.
All right,
that's something. So I've got this is personally exciting news. So really wonky. So a member of John Williams' family was on a radio show and talking about how John has been working on the soundtrack for The Rise of Skywalker, because they're doing the scoring for it right now. And the score, it's come out, so it's going to be 135 minutes is the length of the soundtrack. So people are throwing around the idea that 135 minutes could be the runtime of the movie. But the thing that's interesting is that the soundtrack for The Last Jedi is 70 minutes. And that's like half of the movie's runtime.
Yeah, that's like the movie's like 2.5 hours long.
So I don't think we're going to be getting a 4-hour Star Wars: The Rise of Skywalker, but it shows that it's going to probably be longer. It's going to have a long runtime.
2.5, 3 hours.
Yeah, it's going to be like your 3-hour finale big thingy. But what's cool as well is that John Williams has talked about how he's going to incorporate different bits and pieces of every main theme throughout the whole series, including like the prequels. And so, like, if there's any music in Star Wars that you've heard that you've liked, it's going to be in this one. Yeah. So I think that's cool that, like,
including prequel music.
Well, and that we could totally have a showdown between Kylo Ren and Rey to the Duel of the Fates from the Phantom Menace.
That's a fantastic prospect. Let's hope they
so fingers crossed
go
for that.
The distance with it. The Lion King is now the highest grossing animated movie of all time, and same reaction as New Mutants. Okay.
All I'm going to say about that is that it broke the record for not highest grossing live action movie, highest grossing animated movie, because it's not a live action movie, it's animated.
it's all CGI.
100% CGI.
They didn't get real lions to talk, which I was severely disappointed with. That's what I was going in for. And then we got, this one includes spoilers, but we got a scene from It Chapter 2 alongside the movie's re-release back into theaters just this little bit ago. So we are going to talk about it.
If
but
you want to
spoilers, there's I mean, it doesn't spoil the movie itself, but if you're going in blind or you're going in with just 1 or 2 of the trailers and nothing else.
And because obviously this is a story that has been made into film before. It's a book.
Right.
So, like, the story's out there.
Most of this scene isn't present in the book, though.
But if you want to stay completely clean for It Chapter 2, we're going to be talking about, like, a full 5-minute segment from the movie. So this isn't just, like, a little clip in a TV spot.
Okay, so spoiler warning.
Now.
So, it's so good. It basically is the Losers Club's reunion scene. They're all talking, eating at that Chinese bar. And, you know, they have the little spinning dish that allows them to all take food. And they're all joking, laughing, going, you know, just catching up, and all of a sudden the tide kind of turns, and they all talk about how they felt this moment of panic as soon as they found out they have to go back to Derry.
Yeah, and what I didn't realize before is I didn't realize, because they say that you forget things. I didn't realize they forgot everything.
With Pennywise.
Because you hear Beverly, like, during this scene when they're all talking about coming back, and then suddenly she's like, Pennywise. Like she remembered that, oh, wait, there was this clown that tried to kill me and my friends.
Yeah, this demonic, like, shape-shifting clown. Yeah.
So, like, any like, remnant of Pennywise was completely gone from their minds. And then suddenly, like, so to see it come back to all of them, they were just like, it felt so real.
And the thing that I thought was really cool is even though they don't remember, the feelings are still there, because all of them describe how they nearly crashed their car. They almost threw up. Like, as soon as they got the call that they have to go back, even though they don't remember why, they have that deep-seated fear still stuck in them. And I think that was really cool. And then we get into kind of the scare part of it as they start to talk about it. And Mike, who is the one that never left, fills them in that the farther away you go, the hazier it gets. We get our first scare, which is their fortune cookies all put together form a message.
Yeah.
And it is, I guess, Stanley couldn't cut it. Which, do you know what happens to him?
Yeah, so, because, like, in the book, I guess we already said spoilers. Like,
yeah.
So that when he gets the call, he kills himself because
but he's so scared.
Back to him. He's so scared.
He's the only one who remembers, and I think it's because he's just outside Derry.
Yeah.
And so, he gets the call and he kills himself. And
so,
he kills himself by cutting his wrist.
Yeah.
And so it's a message to that.
I guess Stanley couldn't make the cut.
Yeah.
And it was like,
so,
oh, man.
Yeah, it's like, oh, yikes.
And then you see the one of the fortune cookies start to like quiver and bounce
all
on the
of
table.
Them. All of them. Start,
and then
one pops out.
A little thing pops out of the fortune cookie and it cuts and ends there. And that's the end of the footage we got. But it's like, it's the full scene of their reunion.
Yeah, and it's really, really, really good.
Really good. I was absolutely stunned by... I mean, it's very soon to say, but everyone's performances.
Already,
it's already a star-studded cast. These are great actors, but it really did feel like they were the
adult losers club.
Like they
have the same chemistry, same...
And James McAvoy and his stutter sounded exactly like
the kids.
In
chapter 1.
Chapter 1. And I can't remember the name of the kid who is the germaphobe and has...
Eddie.
Okay, thank you. So Eddie, that was the one that blew me away. Just like, because adult Eddie doesn't say loads in this scene, but just sitting, just looking at him at the table,
you're like, that's adult
Eddie.
That
is him. Like, I was just like blown away. I was like, are we sure that they didn't
Bill
just like chuck him into the van and from Avengers Endgame and pulled him out as an adult and like...
my favorite thing is Bill Hader at one point. He said he watched the movie like a dozen times and talked to Finn Wolfhard to learn his mannerisms. And one of my favorite things is you see him say a joke to someone in the little scene, and then he goes to high five them, and they just look away, and he just slowly puts his hand back down, and that happens like 10 times in the original. So all of them just feel it's just exactly like their originals.
It was real good.
It's gonna be so good. And I think it's both of ours, like one of the most anticipated for the year.
Absolutely. And I think what's great about this footage as well is that there's nothing spoilery that's come from it. Like, obviously, if you don't know the story of it and you don't know that Stanley dies, then yes, that's a problem. But if you do know it going in, like, it wasn't like a pivotal scene. It was just a really great scene to see.
And you're gonna find out in the first like 10 minutes of the movie. And I mean, the only real spoiler I think is that it gives you one scare.
Yeah.
So, and then moving on from that, Ghost Rider is getting his own show.
Yeah, kind of a weird setup how they're doing it. So Disney announced this week at D23 their Disney Plus like packaging thing. So what they're going to be doing is if you pay for Disney Plus, you get Disney Plus, ESPN Plus, and Hulu all in like one package.
That's pretty cool.
So, yeah, really good deal actually. It's the same price as Netflix as well. So like just Netflix versus that.
Versus 3 streaming services.
And so
with exclusive content.
We're not 100% sure if it's MCU for Ghost Rider. I think it's going to be carrying on with the same kid from Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., which would mean MCU. It's going to be on Hulu, though. It's not going to be on Disney+. But maybe that's because they're trying to keep it darker, because it is
That
Ghost
also
Rider.
might be because they're trying to keep Hulu's ratings up, too. Because Disney Plus already will be having a grand debut And Disney Plus will already... Sorry, that was just the timer.
That was,
when we needed to wrap up this segment.
Yeah.
But Disney Plus is already getting its debut, which will, it will have its highest numbers as soon as it debuts with all this exclusive content.
Yes.
And then it won't really go up from there. But Hulu, on the other hand, might go down.
Yeah.
And so it might be because of that.
But I'm really excited by that because I absolutely despise Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. I think it is one of the worst things that's ever been made. And I'm not going to get into why I feel about that because I could talk for hours about how much I hate Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. But one of the few things that brought me back was Ghost Rider, when they did Ghost Rider. And that season still sucked. But the bits with Ghost Rider was so good. Because I hadn't ever seen the Nicolas Cage ones. I just watched them over the weekend, actually.
They're so bad.
They're real bad. But, like, the Ghost Rider portrayal we got in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is spot on. And so if we get that, but in its own show, it's going to be really good.
It is.
I'm really excited for that.
And so now...
Yeah.
Top 3 clickbait articles of the week that you have to hear to believe.
So I'm
not clickbait.
We're going to have to apologize to all of you right now because all 3 of these come straight out of Avengers Endgame. So not only has it been out on digital for nearly a month now, it's on Blu-ray now. Film's been out for months. And we are still cranking out.
Just because
they
know that with that spectacle and event type film, they're going to get the clicks. And thus, clickbait. And so, here we are. Do you want to kick it off?
Yes. So, Iron Man's daughter in Avengers Endgame addresses the future for her character.
As in... the 5-year-old
who plays this character addresses the future for her own character,
which she has no right to do.
And I'm 90% sure all that was said was something about the "I love you 3000."
Literally,
it's because
that's what she's been conditioned to say.
These are incredibly pointless articles, but they get you with a stupid title like that, where you're like, oh, maybe she's gonna grow up and be like Rescue or something,
Ironheart or something like that.
Gosh, man.
And that brings us to the next one. And hear us out. This one may not sound clickbaity, but we'll actually go ahead and give away the spoiler of the clickbait. This one. How Avengers Endgame's paper football scene set up a pivotal moment. And it does not. They say, in which, already at first here, that sounds ridiculous. Then you think about it and you're like, oh, maybe that was some foreshadowing that I didn't catch. The article actually states that it is a foreshadowing moment to when he flicks Ant-Man off his shoulder. And that's why he has such good aim. And that just made me want to walk straight into the ocean. And so
the thing that kills me is there's this subreddit that's about overanalyzing movies. It's like a meme where they overanalyze a movie. So, for example, they analyze that scene at the beginning of The Dark Knight with the bank robbery, and then they're like, who is stealing from? Because the guy says, do you know who you're stealing from? Do you know who you are stealing from? And so it's ridiculous memes. And I saw this as a meme on that subreddit page about how this foreshadowing. But then this was an actual article on an actual movie news site.
Yeah, all these came from the same website. Don't know if we want to say it, but I'm sure you can figure it out.
If you follow it, you know.
If you go on their website or follow their Twitter, you know exactly who it is. Now, next up...
Oh, boy. Okay. Stan Lee's cameo in Ralph Breaks the Internet foreshadowed a major Avengers Endgame scene. This one kills me. This one kills me so bad.
No, it didn't.
Why?
No, it didn't. Dude. For the record, it's if you zoom in super, super, super far, it's that behind Stan Lee in the scene, you can see on the billboard 3000. And if you've seen the movie, you know what that is. So, yeah, those are terrible. Okay, so that was the movie news and top 3 clickbait articles of the week that you have to see to believe. Not clickbait. And next up is our review of Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark, and then following that, Dora and the Lost City of Gold.
Okay. So, spooky, scary stories to tell in the dark. Where do we want to start?
Well, let's do our no spoiler thing for the first few minutes, and then move on to spoilers.
Yeah, go on.
I mean, it was good. It was okay.
Yeah, I was like,
it wasn't great.
I was actually really like, you just walk out of it, and we just came like, this is fresh. We just came out of it like probably 20 minutes ago.
Yeah.
And I can't remember everything that happened in that movie. So,
I honestly just remembered that the Ramon kid was even in it. I was thinking back on the movie, and all of a sudden his face popped up, and I was like, "Oh yeah, the handsome one."
Oh yeah, there's a guy in that movie
whose job is literally to be there and brood and look handsome, to have a mysterious backstory, which is a really lame one.
Yeah. So it's like, as a movie, it was fine. I think because it achieved what it wanted to be. Because I know everybody's talked about, like, even before it's come out, how it's kind of supposed to be kind of like your gateway horror movie.
Kind of like how the book was, how, you know, it was kind of your first horror stories and stuff like that.
And like, unlike Goosebumps, like, it has some genuine frights in it.
Yeah, no, it's scarier than Goosebumps.
Because as like a kid, like, Goosebumps, like, ooh, this is spooky, this is introducing me to scary stuff, because you like scary stuff when you're kids. Yeah. And I remember being in school and always loving it when my teacher would bust out scary stories to tell in the dark. Like, it was always really exciting. And I think, like, it gives you kind of that same vibe. It's nothing, now that I've, like, it's kind of like going from, like, weed to cocaine. Like, now that I've experienced the cocaine of horror movies, like, this, it wasn't anything like...
It's a softer buzz.
Yeah, definitely. But it achieved what it wanted to be. Like, as a gateway horror movie, I think, like, it's a solid entry. It's definitely not bad.
It's loud, for sure. I mean, halfway through, I had to start plugging my ears because I was like, oh my god, like, because it was so noisy for the jump scares.
It was luckily it was incredibly predictable, so you knew exactly when to plug your ears.
I was just plugging my ears because I knew exactly when the jump scare was going to be, and I didn't want my ears to hurt afterwards. But it is for sure kind of, it's the same thing as kind of the original book in movie form, where, you know, I remember reading Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark when I was like, you know, 3rd, 4th grade.
Yeah.
And it was my first, like, horror book. And and it kind of gave me a base to build off of. And so I think for a lot of parents who are starting to get their kids into horror movies and stuff like that, it is a good one to start with.
Yeah.
And because it's scary enough where your kid can expect to, you know, walk out of there like, ooh, that was creepy, you know, whatever, but not so scary where you're gonna all out traumatize them.
Yeah.
Like if you slapped on The Shining or The Ring, you know.
Yeah. And I think as well, like, if you as a viewer of horror films, like, if you've watched like higher caliber, more intense, frightening movies, this is gonna be like it's not going to be even entertaining.
It's almost going to be boring.
Yeah, it's not going to be entertaining. You're going to sit down and it's incredibly predictable.
Oh, like, yeah. The jump scares are all like by the numbers.
Well, and it relies entirely upon jump scares to scare you.
Yeah.
There's nothing in this movie that is scary outside of the jump scares, and the jump scares are incredibly predictable. So, like we said, if for somebody who's never seen a horror movie before, like, we were in the theater, and there were definitely people in there who this was their first horror movie.
Oh, man. They were, like, adults. They were, like, 30 years old.
You can tell by their reactions where they'd be like, oh, no, don't open the door. But you know exactly what's going to happen when they open the door. But they got the experience they wanted. I'm sure they came out of that like, wow, that was so scary.
That was spooky.
And so,
yeah. Meanwhile, more veterans like us, it's like, I looking back, I don't think one jump scare actually got me.
I remember distinctly, like, having the jump scare happen and not even moving, and watching everybody else
like that, just certain heads in the audience, like you that, see, like
it's
whack-a-mole.
All it's all like one motion, like, you know, like on Wii Sports, like when you do something good, the crowd goes yay, and the crowd goes yay, and like that's what happened is you just watch everyone's head go like
or back a little bit,
but like there was
So it was. I guess we'll cap off the non-spoiler part of the review by giving it our judgment. Yeah. So, I think we both agreed on one yet again. We have a good streak going that might end with Dora, but we'll see. But I think we both decided to give it a free time film.
So
judgment.
yeah, it's definitely if you get to see it for free, or it comes up on TV, or you have like a friend invite you to see it, like go ahead.
Yeah,
it's not bad.
Your ticket is paid for, and you're good to go, or you just like really want to see a scary movie, and you've got like an evening to kill, and you're just dying to see one. It's an okay choice.
Yeah, it's definitely not bad because its story is cohesive, and it is enough that you'll watch it and you're not bored by it.
And they do attempt story arcs and all that good stuff.
So there's enough there that it's an enjoyable film.
It has substance, for sure.
But I wouldn't say as like if you are a horror buff, it's not worth going out of your way to pay money to go see this movie, because you're just going to be let down. But
totally.
If you're like...
Wait for Redbox or something.
Yeah, if you're like 13, 14 years old, never seen a horror
movie.
movie.
You're ready to go out on your first horror movie adventure.
And like bring a date or something. Like, this is great. Go see it. But other than that, it's very lackluster when it comes to like really
actually
scares.
Scaring you. Yeah. So I guess we'll move into the specifics of that. So from now on, spoilers.
If you don't want to know what happens in this spoilerless movie, we could turn it off right now.
Incredibly predictable movie. Turn it off right now. Okay, so I literally predicted the order of kids that were going to die. Like as soon as they'd say one thing, and I go, that one's next. You know what I mean?
It's so true. Even that bit when they're locked up in the police department, I'm like, when the cop was there, I was like, he's gonna die next. Like, because he's being a big douche and isn't like listening to them. I'm like, you're gonna die next. Like,
and I mean, like, when the one kid, the bully kid, was unnecessarily being just a complete dick to the Scarecrow for no reason. Yeah. That was like, it was.
That's what makes it more... go ahead.
So, like, we saw that, and it was, like, a way scarier Scarecrow than any actual Scarecrow you've ever seen. So when he was beating it up for no reason and smashing bottles across its face and stuff, I was like, he's first, and he's gonna get killed by that.
Because you see that exact Scarecrow on the posters, and there's no reason for these group of high school football players to be beating up a Scarecrow.
Literally,
there's no
other than
there's
it
no
to
activity.
Get some revenge for no reason.
Yeah, like there's no activity. Like at first you're like, oh, maybe they're vandalizing somebody's farm. That's a douchey, like stereotypical movie
bully
jock
thing,
to
Stephen
do.
King sort
but
of
it was his own family's Scarecrow. Like there's no reason to do that. Like you'd think like, oh man, let's go.
He hated it. That's the reason given.
Like let's go to a party, or let's go vandalize something, or let's go smoke some pot. But no, they're like, let's go throw bottles at my dad's Scarecrow.
To the point where he literally insults it every time he walks by and has given it a name. Like he calls it Harold, which what a stupid name for that Scarecrow too.
But so kid gets wrecked by a Scarecrow. Yeah. What are the other ones?
Let's see. Who was next after that is Toe.
Oh,
where's my big toe? And that was probably that was one of the better ones for sure.
Better scares of the movie. It got me, but that's more because of the childhood trauma attached to that. It's straight out of the book. So if you
the design of the monster and we'll get into that here in a second. But why don't you tell us your childhood trauma so they understand?
So when I was like 4 years old, I was watching stuff on YouTube and I just clicked on it was a clickbaity video. This is back before Terminator Salvation was announced. It was a fake trailer for Terminator 4, and I clicked on it, and then it was really just the scary maze game with the little girl from The Exorcist, Regan. And so since then, that photo has terrified me. Like nothing else I see in a horror movie scares me. Like I sat through Stephen King's It completely unfazed the entire movie, but that photograph scares me so bad. And so if you know the books, it's a bit of a different story than how they did it in the movie.
With the plot,
to conform with the plot. But I can't quite remember, but it's the chick with no eyes in the book. Mm-hmm. And
who's looking for her big toe because the mom found it in the garden and put it in soup.
Yeah. And so it was scary. Like it was taken straight out of the book.
And those illustrations were the scariest part of the book.
So that was pretty cool. Like I'll say, especially if you like know these books, it's definitely a nostalgia factor where you will watch it and you'll be like, I know that monster. I know that. I recognize that. Like when I saw it, I was like, oh. And at first I was like, oh, cool. And then suddenly I was like, oh, crap, that's kind of scary.
And so when the kid, gets yanked back, and all of a sudden she screams in his face, that really got you.
That was a genuine scare for me. That was the only one.
Still more like, it's kind of your own fault for eating an entire toe and pulling it out with your normal table-sized spoon, and it being this heaping, enormous Bigfoot toe, and him still just being like, yummy stew, and like popping it in his mouth. I was like, you just idiot. Like, what a complete moron.
Yeah, I think all these characters definitely do fit into the stereotypical horror cliche.
Movie. Yeah.
Like, they fit into the, don't open that door, and they open the door. Like,
yeah.
Yeah.
And then following that is Spider-Girl. And I think we both agreed this one was gross.
Yeah.
So I have this thing. So my biggest fear is actually tapeworms. And parasites in general freak me out. I'm so freaked out by tapeworms to a fault that I can't eat anything with sliced onions on it, because when I first saw a tapeworm when I was watching Monsters Inside Me a million years ago, I was like 6 years old, and they pulled out this tapeworm, this poor dude who had to get it like removed out his butt and all this gross stuff. I looked at that and I was like, that is a giant living angry fried onion, like sliced onion. And ever since, when I recently went on vacation and someone put a little thing of onions next to my food just as a prank because they didn't know it was that bad, and I nearly threw up. I had to walk away from the table because it was so gross. And so I have very big problems with things living inside my body and under my skin and all that. Like, that's my actual phobia. And so that was what creeped me out and was so gross about the spider part, is because her squeezing it and like trying to pop it and pull it, and all of a sudden you see it like through her skin. I was like, nope. And then she like tries to pull out the leg, and the spider was like, ow, hey, and that was kind of creepy. As soon as the spiders came out, though, I was like,
yeah,
because I'm not scared of spiders. I actually kind of love spiders.
Yeah. Well, what's funny is earlier we were talking about how this doesn't produce some very genuine frights, but it clearly did play off a little bit of our personal childhood trauma.
Yeah, exactly. and that kind of brings us to the next scare.
Yeah.
Which is the pale lady, and he didn't like it.
No.
So another little trauma I had. Not that I didn't go out and traumatize some kid, but another little trauma I experienced was the movie Spirited Away. It's an anime movie from, I think, early 2000s, maybe even earlier, I'm not sure. But it has a character, is his name Ghostface, something like that?
I can't remember.
The big black monster with the white mask.
Yeah.
And even though I've come to learn from other people telling me that he is a good guy, I do not remember him as such. I remember him as the scariest thing my 3-year-old mind had ever seen. When he started freaking out and eating everything, I still was like it just raw terror. And so now, ever since, the pale round face with like a black smiley face and black orb eyes, that basic concept is creepy to me, like to this day. And so the pale lady scene in the hospital with the red room, and everywhere he turns, she's suddenly there, but we never see more than one of her. I thought that was a pretty cool concept. And then her design was freaky to me, the same way the toe lady was to you. And so I did think that was creepy, although his death was super like, oh no, she's hugging him.
It was
and
a
all
PG horror movie death.
Very much so.
Yeah, it wasn't even PG.
The most time the PG-13 rating is pushed, I think, is for sure the bully's death by Scarecrow.
Yeah.
I mean, him like throwing up like straw and stuff like that and getting stabbed all the way through with a rake.
Yeah, I wasn't expecting he literally got
into straw.
Well, man, and when he got, because I was expecting, that was one thing I was pretty happy with, is that as a PG-13 horror movie, and as like, I guess your borderline, it's a children's horror movie almost, that it still definitely pushed the limit on intensity, because like, I was expecting a cut away kind of death.
And screaming, and all of a sudden he's the Scarecrow
exactly.
next morning. Yeah.
Like, that's the kind of thing I was expecting. And so you see this kid get stabbed straight through the chest with a pitchfork. Yeah. And I was like, oh, dang. Like,
yeah, no, it's gnarly.
Yeah.
And then when all of a sudden, like, his straw started pouring out of his ears and his mouth and his nose, and like everything in his eyes were like crumbling back, and you saw straw replacing it.
Yeah.
All that was like, whoa, this is intense for a PG-13 movie.
Yeah, and then you had we are then next brought to the police station,
and we get the I couldn't understand his name.
It was like the Mr. It was like Mr. Doe T.
It was Mr.
Walker.
It was the crab walkie guy.
Yeah.
You know, who walks with his face upside down and crab walks everywhere.
Yeah, I think the name was the Mr. Doe T.
He was probably
Walker.
my least scary monster in my book because he was very clearly CGI, and even his like initial entrance, while the others had kind of creepy initial entrances,
it was almost comedical.
Yeah, he was like Mr. Doe T. Walker, and it was like.
Yeah, well, because like the head bounces out of the, and at first I thought that was like I was like, oh man, like this thing killed somebody and chucked a head down the, and I realized I'm like, oh wait, that is the monster. That is the monster, and it was. I think the concept was kind of cool, like that it was just like super contortionist and like, but
it was still a crab walking monster, and when it had to run like that. I started laughing in the theater because all of a sudden it's like it's doing the most awkward, weird run.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I think that one's almost burdened by its own design.
Yeah, it wasn't very threatening either. I wasn't really sure what it was going to do.
Yeah.
Like because
him.
Yeah, I wasn't because. Mind you, it did snap the police officer's neck. I liked that actually because I wasn't expecting that in like a PG-13 kids horror movie. And
also him to
like or to even like show it. It literally shows it just like wreck this guy. So I liked that.
And then we get the final confrontation in the haunted house where she meets the least scary one of all.
Was the villain.
Albino ghost.
The villain wasn't scary at all.
She was, however, the worst person to have ever lived because her entire story arc is her being
innocent,
bullied and innocent her entire life, but then in death she's super vengeful and she decides to do what she was accused of, which she didn't do, which is kill kids.
Yeah.
And so then she goes and kills kids.
It's so funny. She's like, I was tormented my whole life, and then my family murdered these children and blamed it on me. So I'm gonna go murder some children now.
Yeah, and then they murdered me, and then she's like, well. My family blamed me for murdering children, then murdered me, so time to murder children. And then even then, like, even when she comes around and is reminded who she is and all that, and the main character, who I can't even remember her name anymore. Stella, yes. Tells her, she'll tell her story and everything. Even then, and so she, like, does the most annoying letting go of, you know, her grudge ever and screams and explodes.
Yeah, that was
stupid.
Well, because even though they had won and like the villain decided to be like, okay, I'm
like
done.
One more jump scare.
But they're like, let's get one more jump scare. This I think you'd probably put I'd put 15 plus. Like not just like little jump scares, like
I think
25 where it is just like
scream loud noise.
Scream like Batman versus Superman level like audio where I'm only saying that because when I saw Batman versus Superman and that police officer fired the shotgun, when I saw it in IMAX, it literally deafened me. My ears were ringing after that. So it's really loud. It's a loud movie. But no, just kidding. It's really quiet.
But to loop back, even after all that, she has a change of heart, goes back to her original ways, and then tries to, you know, return everything to normal. She leaves the other kids that she already murdered as sequel bait for the next one, which don't give it a sequel.
It's going to get a sequel. I think box office wise, it's doing really well because I was dead shocked because we were going to see it tonight. And I just bought tickets this morning. It was sold out everywhere.
State's worst theater to do it too.
It was sold out everywhere, which is a shock. So, I mean, for what it is, it accomplished what it wants to do, and it's doing really well at it. So,
we can hope for a sequel, but best I can say is it's okay. Yeah. It's good, but it's not one I'd say go out of your way in any way, shape, or form.
That seems like people are doing that anyways. So
well, best of luck to them. Hopefully they walk out as disappointed as we did.
Yeah.
Or I guess as meh as we did. But it's good.
Yeah, we'll be recording these at different time periods, so we're gonna be moving on to Dora, but we were in different clothes at a different time.
Dora and the Lost City of Gold.
Yep.
Okay.
Dora the Explorer
and the Lost City of Gold. What a movie. It's awful. It's so bad.
It's got a certified fresh 82% on Rotten Tomatoes
82.
right now.
It's in the 80s now.
I can't fathom that. It's so bad.
It's so painfully bad. Okay, so we're not even going to do a spoiler alert for this one. We're just launching into it. We'll say right now we're going to say right now, however, our rating for it, and that.
Okay,
I
so
think
the way I
we
view
can
it
agree.
is if you are over the age of 9, waste of time.
Yep, it's a skip it.
Absolutely skip it.
Yep, that's our official diagnosis: is skip it, unless you have a 4-year-old that needs to be like just knocked out and brain dead, content filled for 2 hours.
And if you can leave your 4-year-old in the theater and you can leave,
so you don't want to walk out wanting to just kill yourself. Yeah,
it's so bad.
It's so bad. Okay, so that was basically your spoiler alert warning. Let's dive right into this heaping pile of garbage, huh?
Man, see, here's the thing. I actually, and Ethan can attest to this, I was really excited for Dora. Like, I actually was...
You thought it was going to pull a little Deadpool for kids thing.
I thought it was going to be your PG Nickelodeon, like, super self-aware. It was basically going to be PG Deadpool. The idea... And actually, it starts off like that. I think it started off strong-ish. Like, it definitely had a lot more potential when it started. Because I thought, like, with something like this, if you made it super self-aware, super campy, very, like, fourth wall breaking...
Aware of what it is, aware of the cheesiness of the original show.
It potentially could be very funny. It could be really funny. And I think it actually, like, because it starts off with that scene where it's like, as if it's a Dora episode, and then suddenly you realize none of it was real.
And it was like, in their imagination.
It was in their imagination. They're in a cardboard Jeep. And I was like, holy crap, that is perfect.
I even thought the same thing. I was like, oh, that's actually... That's pretty solid.
That's solid, because then, like, it's all in her imagination.
And you still get to see a brief little bit for the kids who loved the original show to watch kind of a brief 3-minute live-action Dora episode sort of deal.
Yeah, and that left it to the potential. So then you have, like, they're eating almost dinner, and she speaks to the camera. She's like, can you... And I was
can you say, delicioso?
I thought that was perfect, because that's what it will be, is then...
And
life
then
will move
her parents,
on.
But what makes it seem good is because then her parents are like,
who's she talking to?
Yeah, like, she'll grow out of that. Yeah.
And so it would have been just so perfect if, like, you move on through the rest of her life and, like, she is still living in this Dora fantasy and it was never real. And I thought that was great. But then 5 minutes later, you actually realize it was real. Like, it wasn't real, but it was.
We never get a full answer. And here's the thing. That's when the movie starts to go downhill, because it even brings up the great idea that, like, because then I thought they were gonna go like almost PG Tomb Raider sort of deal, because instead of her talking to no one, which was a pretty funny joke like 2 minutes earlier, she grabs a camera and is acting like she's filming a kid's nature show sort of deal. And I was like, that is kind of genius. But then immediately, not even the next scene, the same scene, she turns to our camera with her camera down and asks us a question and breaks the fourth wall. And it was like...
I just think the movie couldn't decide what it wanted to be or what it was.
And, I mean, and then it tries to carry the idea that Boots, which is the monkey, was in her imagination and was only, anthropomorphic and, I mean, I expected him to be a little more cartoony than an actual monkey and a little more, pet style than an actual monkey. And they do that for most of the movie. But all of a sudden Swiper shows up and he can talk. It's not just that he wears clothes. It's not just that he walks on his hind legs. He talks. Everyone hears him talk. He drives a truck in one scene.
Well, not even that, but that Swiper's been hired by armed mercenaries. And I was so confused, because at first, like, when she goes to high school and all this kind of stuff, like, okay, none of it was real, and it's funny because she's weird and she's awkward, but then, like...
Which, I mean, she's a super pretty girl, no way.
Yeah,
I'm like...
But then, like, man, it just can't decide what it wants to be, because then they get kidnapped by a bunch of mercenaries, because Dora's parents are explorers, so they get kidnapped by these mercenaries, and I'm like, okay, so, like... They're just using Dora, and then it's going to be this fun adventure. But then there's, like, Swiper's there, and he actually talks. And then I'm like,
and he's on his hind legs. Yeah, he literally says things like, as soon as he went, "Aw, man," like that, I was like, what? I mean, that's the thing about the movie, is it can't decide what it wants to do. It can't decide if it wants to have that all been in their imagination, but then later it's real. And then later Boots talks, and his voice is terrifying.
But then after Boots talks, it's his imagination again. It's in her imagination again.
But that was my thing, is I think Boots actually talks. Oh, man. Because then, but the part that made me laugh more than the actual joke in that scene is she turns to her friends and is like, Boots just talked. Boots just talked. And they're all like, oh, Dora, who has only been intelligent and honest this whole movie, you're such a stupid liar. And then they're like, now let's go fight that talking fox. And it's like, what, you believe the fox can talk because you've heard him, but you don't believe the monkey can? And Boots, by the way, this is a very small criticism compared to the rest of the movie, but Boots' voice is terrifying.
I think it was Danny Trejo. I believe that's actually
why did they get him to do that? They're like, he's all like, Dora.
Yeah, it's Danny Trejo.
And he's like, and here, I'm going to get really close to the microphone just so they can experience it. He's all like, the only person who does not believe in you, Dora, is yourself. And it's like, this is weird. This is creepy. And it's like constant unblinking eye contact with this awful CGI monkey the entire time.
Man.
And
so, I just don't know where to start with
and
why
Swiper
this
is
movie's
Benicio
bad.
del Toro.
Yeah. I don't know where to start with why this movie is bad, because I think what it did was they had multiple good ideas and multiple bad ones, and they decided to combine them all into one movie, and it just makes it real bad.
Let's put it this way. They make a point of showing a character does not wipe. And I mean that in that she takes she poops in the jungle, and then they have to hurry and run, and they make a point of her still pooping, and then having to pull up her pants immediately, zip it up, and run through the humid jungle. So it's just a nasty, swampy mess down there for the rest of the movie, and you get to sit with that thought. Well, and then she has a love interest, and that's Diego, and he gets to kiss her, even though she never wiped the entire movie. Another thing that was really weird is they tried to make it a little more adult by like throwing in like sexual innuendos, but they do it like 3 times over the course of like 2 minutes. Like they cram them in right there.
Which bit was that?
It was we get the scorpions mating on top of his head scene. And while they're sinking in quicksand, because that was hilarious. That was the funniest thing I've ever seen in my life. And then we get Dora realizing that Diego is into the other girl in the group, and I can't even remember her name.
She's like mating, and
yeah,
like,
and she's
wait
like,
a second.
And she's like, did you know that intense situations can further the process of copulation in between specimens? And I was like, what is going on? Like,
And so when it comes down to this as a film, because we're talking about all the stupid moments, but like as a film in general, I think Isabella Moner, she's really great.
She is.
Her performance
she did a great job.
With what she was given,
live action Dora.
Everyone else sucks.
Yeah, Diego
Every other performance
didn't
is
even.
crap.
I honestly thought something cool that they should have done is Diego was always the animal one, right? Mm-hmm. Like I watched him more as a kid than Dora, and that's because I have a strong attachment to animals.
Absolutely nothing with
he does nothing with animals the entire time.
I'm pretty sure he does nothing the whole movie.
No, he's kind of like, you're my cousin, I'm here for you, but also you're annoying and I hate you. But like something cool they should have done is had him be kind of like Kevin Hart in Jumanji, where he knows all the animal facts and helps him navigate the sort of wildlife. Like, even though he's kind of cooler and quieter now, he still is like into zoology and that sort of deal. But they completely drop the ball. He just sits there and looks upset most of the movie.
Yeah, and so it just doesn't work. Like, I think that's just like Isabella Moner is great. Everyone else is terrible in this. And the thing about it is family, because everyone talks about, like, all the reviews I've read, because it's got a really great score right on Rotten Tomatoes. And I've been reading the reviews because I'm trying to understand people's perspective, because I'm not just like hard-hearted, I'm the only one who's right. And so I've been reading reviews, and everyone keeps giving this whole thing where it's like it's a great kids movie. But the thing is, nowadays I just feel like with your Lego movie, your Pixar films, even Despicable Me, there's
or
enough.
How to Train Your Dragon.
How to Train Your Dragon. There's enough that when you sit down, you can watch this as a family, and everyone will have a good time, and everyone's gonna laugh,
and everyone's gonna get an emotional experience out of it to an extent, or an actual movie experience. Versus this, which was like a pill. It was you had to swallow this movie.
Yeah, and I genuinely found myself like sitting there watching this, and whenever like one of the funny bits whenever it would happen, whenever anyone would crack a joke, the theater was silent except for little kid giggles. And it's because little kid giggles because there was a fart noise. Like
the same reason little kids laugh at anything.
And so I just,
or someone hit their head,
and so everyone I've talked to after seeing this is like, well, it's a kids movie, of course you're not gonna like it. But so is the Lego Movie. So is How to Train Your Dragon. So is Incredibles 2. But like, they're great. They're really good, and they're really funny. Like, it doesn't have to be crude or raunchy or adult to be funny.
Right.
It can be really childish and funny. It's just really
humor is set up through situations. It doesn't have to be the cliche, oh, this girl has to take a poop in the jungle. And we even juvenile. And that scene, it lasts for like, I know I keep coming back to that scene, and I get where you're coming from, that we're trying to review it as a movie as a whole versus just specific parts. Yeah. But that scene lasts a while. Like, that entire scene, we watch Dora dig the entire hole. And then we watch Dora sing a song the entire time. And then we get to watch her unzip her pants and go and start pooping in the hole. And then we get to watch her sing the song. And then we get to watch her finish and her have to hurry and pull up her pants. And, like, it spends, like, 5 minutes movie runtime on that. Yeah. But as a whole, even the rules it establishes, it doesn't follow. Because at first, it says that none of that was real. And that it's going to be sort of like, you know, Dora, you know, kind of lives in her own sort of world of it. And then it says none of that was real. It was just child's imagination. Yeah. And that now she's sort of a young Tomb Raider and a kid's Tomb Raider.
And so then, like, when they get kidnapped,
Lara Croft.
Yeah, and so then, like, when they get kidnapped, it's like, oh, she's gonna go on this adventure because even though she's delusional, she still has all these skills and stuff. So it'll be funny. It'll be cool.
So it's gonna be kids Lara Croft. Yeah. But then it decides that all of that way back was real. Swiper can talk. Swiper can walk on two legs. Boots can talk. And it takes you out of the movie because you're like, wait a second, you said something different before that. Yeah. And and the big twist. The big twist where the adult that has been helping them the whole time is a bad guy. He literally talks for a couple of minutes about how he is a bad guy. And Dora's like, you're not a bad guy. Everyone feels like that sometimes, and they're all like, yeah, and then they walk off.
You're not a bad guy. And he's like, thanks, I totally just blew my cover, but thank you so much.
And then, guess what?
He's a bad guy.
He's literally a bad guy. And, I mean, I know this is an expression, but I literally did not even blink when that came out. I was like, well, yeah, he said it loudly over the course of several minutes.
Literally said, I'm a bad guy. Well, and the thing that kills me is everything that leads up to the climax, because you have this bit where, like, the two kids who aren't important to the plot are leaving, and then they see, like, this certain tattoo on the lady's arm
that they saw on a totem
once. So they're like, oh no, we have to go warn them. And they don't.
They don't. And
it's completely forgotten. And then, like, you have this whole bit where there's lots of booby traps and they're going for the treasure or whatever. And then at the end you have, like, your, like, Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom kind of, like,
booby traps.
And that you have, like, your whole
puzzles.
Like, puzzle where it's like that super humble, like, most people wouldn't expect it, like, or no, that's not.
Oh yeah, the water.
Sorry,
thing.
not Temple of Doom. That's the last Crusade. Sorry, the Last Crusade with the Holy Grail. And so what happens is, like, the bad guy is like,
it's gold.
It's gold. The Incans loved gold the most. And then
it's water.
But they don't explain that because there's no way it was water. They lived in a rainforest. There was water everywhere. It's not like they lived in a desert.
Could have rained. Yeah, it could have rained, and the monkey would have been like, "Oh, here's my enormous monkey."
And you know what's funny is also as well that,
they made
like,
a point of showing it outside too. I just realized that
it's like outdoors, and that, like, you can totally see it. So it's not like they come through this big thing and, like, in National Treasure where the City of Gold is, like, underground and you can't get to it. But in this,
it's a large valley.
You can literally see it from Google Maps.
A satellite.
You can see it from Google Maps. Yeah.
Like, it's an enormous golden city, literally. And even in the poster, they show it underground. They show that the city is underground. So like the poster designer had a better idea than.
Yeah.
But and that's kind of the thing is, we wanted it to be either PG Deadpool or kids Laura Croft or anything like that, and instead it ends up being almost kids Aquaman in the sense of the criticism you had, that it's just plot point 1, plot point 2. They just broke out the skeleton of the plot points they needed to go, and then forgot everything in between for the sake of a joke.
Yep.
You know what I mean? They broke their own rules, their own world building, just to make a joke.
And it's for the sake of a bad joke as well. It's not even a funny joke.
Yeah, no, I don't think I laughed once in that movie after the whole, can you say delicioso? Yeah. And then, like, the parents are like... Also, he does, like, an impression of EDM music, and it goes on a while. Like,
man, it just...
So many jokes are like that. Like, we both watch Cinema Sins, and when they stop one of the... Like, they'll stop a movie scene, and they'll just be like... this goes on for some time. Ding! And then it skips to the end of it.
Yeah.
That is exactly how I felt through most of this movie. Yeah. Just like, this goes on for some time. Ding! Like, but except I can't skip through it, and it was just 2 hours of nonsense.
And the movie just feels very lazy. Because they had good ideas, and they
set up a lot of good ideas.
Yeah, and if they had taken it in any other direction than the direction they had taken, it would have been a lot better. If they had committed to one of them, it was just really easy.
Because they set two different really good alternatives up.
And yeah, so I really feel like this one falls flat on its face. It tries to find its feet and like stumbles and trips down a mountain and then like
complete skip it.
It's real bad.
It's not even, honestly, throw on How to Train Your Dragon or The Incredibles or any other number of actually entertaining and well-made kids movies, and watch that with your family. That's worth more of your time.
If you're gonna take your kids to see a movie this weekend, take them to see Toy Story 4 for a second time. Don't go see Dora.
It's not worth it. Don't give it your money. It doesn't deserve it.
It's real bad.
It's so bad. So, yeah, skip it. That's
all
our official diagnosis. I mean, there's not even a lot of positives to look for in it. It's that type of bad where you just walk out completely unfulfilled in any way. And so now, I guess that brings us to a close. We are going to be doing next week another fantastic looking film, 47 meters down, Uncaged. And I hated the first one. I hated The Shallows. Yeah. The only shark movie I enjoy is the first Jaws. The Meg...
I really like Sharknado, but...
okay, well, that's a different kind of movie, because at that point, no one watches that and believes it.
No,
I hate these movies that take shark attacks so seriously, because
they're not real.
Because they're not real. I mean, these movies don't even Google how often shark attacks happen, and I feel like a shark attack movie could be done really well and made really scary if they just Googled why sharks attack people. Or they follow like the rogue shark theory, and I'll go more into this after seeing the movie.
So we'll talk about this a lot next week.
Yeah, it doesn't look good, and I don't have high hopes, but
we're excited.
We're excited to see the awful CGI albino shark Mayan ruins movie.
Yep. So we'd like to thank you guys so much for watching,
and thanks for going with us beyond the cinema. Remember to like, comment,
subscribe, click the little notification bell. We like that notification bell.
Yeah, we like that notification bell a lot. So, yeah, if you guys want to see more content, and then if, like I said, I know I say this every week, but like I said, if you guys have any movies that we should review for some of our slower weeks, if you have any suggestions for a new segment or anything like that, we'd love to hear, and we want to make this a very open dialogue. So we'll see you next week. And thanks for going with us beyond the cinema.